Well, guys, welcome along back to Hotsport. We got our previews coming up now for Matchweek number 2, because tomorrow morning, our time, Chelsea will be taking on West Ham. So we will be breaking up this preview into 3 different videos before we get into anything, because we have got our segment today. This first video is going to be Anton's Tears. So, guys, get excited for Anton's Tears because I'm freaking pumped. All right. But make sure you're hitting that like button. Make sure you are subscribing to Hotsport. We are so excited, honestly. But, God, it's going to be really, really fun. We got so many awesome matchups coming up for you this weekend. And it's all going to start here. We're going to break it down all for you. But first, Anton's Tears coming up right now. Last night, a committee of 5 people, 4 men and 1 dog, gathered together to watch the premiere of Fire Them Cannon. By the way, good podcast. Like and subscribe with me and my boy Cal. They had some nice coffee and really delightful croissants, actually, as they tossed and turned and they burned the midnight oil to deliver for you a brand new and one of the greatest segments already in Premier League coverage. Let me present to you guys, it's Anton's Tears. Well, Anton's Tears. And by the way, thank you for the amazing introduction, by the way. Thank you so much. I think it was really, really good. So we might as well just jump into it. Anton's Tears. I got a lot of surprising ones for you. A lot of hit changes from last week. Let's hit into the first one. Sorry. Yikes. That was bad. And these teams were, the teams that really got off to a poor start. Now, some of which we predicted for you last week, as we watched last week's tiers, that these specific teams would struggle. So you had Brentford, who just absolutely got demolished. They lost 3-1 to Nottingham Forest. Burnley looked absolutely out of their depth, going away to Tottenham. They just look like the Premier League is a step ahead of them. And look, Everton losing to a newly promoted Leeds team. Now, of course, Leeds are not in this bottom bracket here, so you have to give it to Leeds. I think they put in a really good show. But Everton, I think their dreams will be ahead this week. But for now, it was bad. That was a bad opening weekend for Everton in the Premier League. But again, an assignment not very easy, going to a new promoted team either, because there's so much excitement from their fan base. West Ham, oh my God. Speaking of losing to newly promoted sides, they got absolutely thrashed away at Sunderland. Like, West Ham was a team that was a regular mid-table to even maybe top 10 team at times. And they absolutely got destroyed by a Sunderland team. And a lot of questions must be asked, really, about West Ham. They have a big game coming up tomorrow night, or tomorrow morning for me, against Chelsea. And you have to say, what type of West Ham is going to show up? Because obviously that's a big derby coming up against Chelsea. But at the moment, we'll just start off with, because it's the first week, we're not going to be so harsh. Yikes, that was bad. And finally, it was Wolves. And Wolves got absolutely just played off the park by Manchester City. We mentioned their defensive woes, and Manchester City's got the best attack probably in the Premier League. Wolves the worst defense in the Premier League, and Wolves got absolutely exposed. Like, Man City were all on them from the jump. It was just men against boys out there. So, that's the bottom part of the tiers. Moving on. So many questions. And these are teams with questions that we have really coming up into this next week, like good and bad. Like Leeds won the first opening game, against Everton, as we just mentioned. Like, is this a team that's gonna be able to survive? Are they gonna stay out of the relegation zone this year? Like, because again, the question is, we've had 3 up, 3 down the last couple seasons of the Premier League. Are any of these promoted sides, do they have what it takes to stay in the Premier League? And Leeds, and another team that I'm going to mention later on in this video, which is, impressive. They're not even in the bottom 2 tiers as a new promoted side. But questions. Now they're going to go to the Emirates this weekend. We're going to see that defensive side of the game. Can they set up a low block against one of the best teams in the Premier League? That's the question we're going to have for them. And for Fulham, the question is, like Fulham and Brighton, I'll mix them together because they played each other. Like, where are they in the spectrum? Number one, is Fulham going to strengthen their team with signings? Because I see a team that definitely, with a few extra signings, notable signings, could bump themselves up closer, to that top 10 range. Now, this is, of course, that mid-table sort of area, and I think that's where Fulham belong. And so that's kind of the question. Are they going to add anybody else in the last 10 days of the window to sort of strengthen themselves? But, they went away to Brighton. They got themselves a point very late in the last minute equalizer by Moniz. And look, they're clearly going to be able to hang. Brighton, on the other hand, like, what are we going to see from Brighton this season? They are a team that could easily push for top 10, but they're also a team that could easily be where, a bottom 10. Like, it's really one of those seesaw teams. But, they've lost some key players. And Ciso just went to Blueco, so I don't even know where he's playing next year. But is this what we're going to see from Brighton? Are we going to be able to, we have to kind of see, we're still questioning what that team sort of can be. And then we've got 2 teams then as well who, have kind of got questions more, because players have been really leaving their team. But look, Bournemouth, my question about Bournemouth is actually not about the players, because they've lost, Zabani, and they lost Housen, of course, that defense. But on the offensive side of the ball, of course, now they've added Adley, but Semenyo, they went to Anfield and they almost got a point. They really, really were dogged in the fight this weekend, and I just want to see if they can maintain that, because they went away to Anfield and they really put in a count of themselves. Are they going to be a tough team in the Premier League to beat? Now, a lot of people were sleeping on them because, especially notably of the loss of the defender, they've lost a few wingers as well. And Crystal Palace, the big question is now, Eberechi Eze is now an Arsenal player. How does that affect them? Because look, they came in, they don't deserve to be in this bottom bracket. And on the performance that they put on against Chelsea, I wouldn't have put them in this bottom bracket. But given the events in the transfer window, and this was something that was clearly a writing on the wall, that Eze would be on his way out. Who's going to step up for Crystal Palace on the attack? That is going to be a really important thing, because, they got a lot of talented players. I think Kamada can come in and really step into a job. They're probably going to have to replace Eze in the transfer market, but Eberechi Eze is being a top 5 performer individually in the Premier League over the last season or 2, and been the key man for Crystal Palace. So it's a brand new era for them. And yes, they've enjoyed, a couple of upsets in the FA Cup and the Community Shield against Liverpool and Manchester City. So you can see what they're capable of, and now it's sort of like they've had their ride to the sunset. Now Eze's gone. And will they be able to keep hold of Mark Gahey? Very strong links with him going away to play for Liverpool. And also links from Adam Wharton to Manchester United. Now I think that Adam Wharton is going to stay, but let's see. So look, Palace could have easily been up there by their performance last week, but a lot of events have occurred since then, and that's why I have so many questions about them at this period of time. Moving on, in the mix, and by the way, this is sort of a double-sided question. For Aston Villa, the question is, will they be in the mix? Because the Aston Villa I saw at home against Newcastle was very uninspiring. They didn't really lose many of their main key guys. They've lost guys that they had on loan last year. But the offensive performance against Newcastle was nowhere near up to snuff for Aston Villa and Unai Emery. And that was at home. So against a Newcastle team that was reeling, missing Alexander Isak, and there's so much drama going on within that club, and I just felt like that was a chance for Villa to capitalize, and they were far off it. So I still think they'll be in the top 10, but the question is, will they be in the mix this time? Because they have been the last couple seasons under Emery. So let's see. The other one is from the opposite direction. Sunderland. Granit Xhaka, we knew that he would make a big impact on Sunderland, but the performance they put on at home in their return to the Premier League for the first time in over a decade against the West Ham side, as I said, has been solid mid-table to top 10 over the last few years. Of course, they've won European titles just only two or 3 years ago in the Conference League, and they went at home and they absolutely smacked them in the second half. This looks like a team that is ready to take the next step. They were prepared for the Premier League. They made a lot of the signings that were equipped them as such. And this is a team that's got a lot of upside for a promoted side. So yes, the question is, already, for a team that is ready to just come up, are they in the mix? Are they in the mix to be in the top 10? Only time will tell. We're going to have to see, if they can maintain that sort of consistency as the season progresses. Moving on. The slow starters. So when I talk about slow starters, I'm talking about amongst the top 6. So obviously Chelsea, they drew and easily could have deserved to lose against Crystal Palace. Eberechi Eze, for all intents and purposes, scored just because of a very old, ancient sort of rule that they put into play on that, which haven't seen them really enforce for a very, very long time. And they decide now to enforce it. Eze should have had a parting gift for Crystal Palace. Instead, it ends up being a draw. Chelsea against Palace. And again, Chelsea after looking really good. Club World Cup champions, looking good in preseason. They were blowing everybody away. And you can see that maybe just the opponents that they were preparing to play, were just not Premier League level. Let's just be honest about it. And Crystal Palace themselves, look, they've had confidence recently, and obviously things are going to change now, as you just mentioned. But it's just about a Chelsea side that needs to now make a response this weekend, tomorrow, against West Ham. Let's see. And the other one is Manchester United. And again, slow starters, and I put that really in quotation marks because I thought they were really, really good and gave a great account of themselves against Arsenal in defeat. But they didn't collect the 3 points, didn't even collect the draw. They're only one member of the top 6 to fall to defeat despite the performance. And the pressure is now going to be on Amram. They're going to play Fulham this weekend. What is it going to come from them now? That's the question when it comes to Manchester United. They look great in the attack. The question as well, by the way, on the goalie, because Bayindir put in a howler, let's be honest, that weekend against Arsenal. And questions about the midfield. Of course, I thought the midfield actually played quite decent against Arsenal, and the attack was really good. So they're not going to play a better defense all season than they did Arsenal. So that's kind of a big reason for their slow start. But yet, that's just kind of it is in and around where their talent bank is, as well as being the only top 6 side to fail to register victory. They have to be in this bracket. Moving on. Now this one is called a bit of a play on words, given the theme of the week. Lower in the chain, and yes, we're talking about the food chain, and 2 of these clubs in here have been victims of being lower in the food chain. Tottenham and Newcastle missing out on target after target after target to the big boys, thinking though that their little trophies and little, that they meant something. But at the end of the day, Arsenal and Man United, despite not winning trophies last season, are still much bigger clubs. And that's kind of the reason why I call this lower in the chain. So yes, Tottenham specifically put on a really good performance, but it was against Burnley. Look where Burnley is on my tiers, right at the bottom. And let's see, they're going to play Manchester City. So you're going to basically go from one extreme to the other. Tottenham. So they're going to have played the worst team, in my opinion, in the Premier League, to playing a team obviously yet named in this tiers, one of the best teams in the Premier League this weekend. And I believe that's going to be away from home at the Etihad as well. So look, lower in the chain, they've missed out on Eze, but as well, they started out like a house on fire in the Premier League. Let's see how that translates now away from home. Let's see how Thomas Frank is able to set up against one of the big boys on an away match. Let's see. Meanwhile, Newcastle, look, you could say similar to Newcastle as to Aston Villa, but I have them in this chain because Alexander Isak is still employed by Newcastle United. So if they have managed to hang on these last 10 days and keep hold of Isak, I believe eventually he'll get reintegrated in the team. And that's really all they were missing, because I thought that they were solid, they were well drilled. I thought a lot of the parts of their game were, I think, looking good, but they didn't have that kind of piece de resistance, that final cutting edge that Alexander Isak brings. And when Alexander Isak is in there, he affects the rest of the attack. He affects Gordon because the attention is there, and you have to always keep account of him. So it gives space to some of his other teammates. And so I think Newcastle, as of right now, and it looks like they're about to strengthen as well, Wissa and Strand Larson could be on their way in. So let's see. I expect Newcastle to go up a level. Again, away at Villa Park to get a draw is not a bad result. I reckon actually outside of Arsenal and Man United, the Villa and Newcastle probably the second toughest matchup of the weekend. And they came away with a point away from home. You can't fault it. So yeah, they're in that one. And Nottingham Forest. Look, Nottingham Forest, you have to put them here because they were in around here last year. And they came back with a house on fire. By beating Brentford, and as well they added in this week Douglas Luiz. So this is a team that's now gotten much better. I think they still have more signings to come as well. Nottingham Forest have been very active in the market. So yeah, they are lower in the chain, but I think they understand it, unlike the other two, that they haven't really gone toe to toe with any of the big boys for their targets. Although they've been ambitious at points this season as well. And some of the signings have been really impressive. Some of the boys they brought in from Botafogo as well. So look, they looked really good in their first outing. They're just second tier. But they're not the top tier. And that is the big three. And as you notice, there's a bit of a difference from last week. Last week I had Liverpool as the favorites at the top because they were the defending champions. I had Liverpool, said Arsenal and City a rung below. And look, you can argue, oh, well, Arsenal, scraped a victory over Manchester United. What are they doing here? Well, I thought they proved that they were the best defense in the league yet again. And now, Eberechi Eze to Arsenal. Here we go. And as we record, he's having his Arsenal medical. He's going to be having his media requirements at Arsenal, and hopefully he will be announced. There's questions to be, and we're now past the deadline, and I'm not looking at Twitter to see if he'll be available against Leeds, but I don't think Arsenal need Eze available against Leeds because he'll be ready to go against Liverpool when he's called upon. And so he brings Arsenal to the very next level. And now I believe Arsenal, Man City, and Liverpool are all three on the same tier. Man City destroyed Wolves last week. They deserve here. And Liverpool, an impressive showing for the champions, but still no Alexander Isak. And I feel that Arsenal's got strongest of the week. So that has been my tiers for the week, guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And until next time, guys, we are out. We'll be back later on, either today or tomorrow, with some more segments in preparation for this weekend. Enjoy Chelsea against West Ham, and we will see you guys later. Make sure you like and subscribe again. Peace.